Hey, this is Greg Berger, and you are listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
Today on episode 97 of the Cinema Geeks,
we discuss the next video game to be adapted into a major motion picture.
We react to the potential casting of Captain Marvel.
And in our main attraction, we give you our take on X-Men Apocalypse.
All that and more coming up on episode 97 with the Cinema Geeks.
That's right, it's episode 97 of the Cinema Geeks, and I am one of your geeks, Optimus Solo. Joining me, as you heard in the introduction, is Hard Candy Mandy.
Yola.
What?
Yola.
Is that a variation of YOLO?
And Ola.
My mind has been blown.
You only say hello once. Is that?
And then you say goodbye.
Oh, jeez. And Movie Revolt, Dan, how's it going?
Good, how's it going?
Not too bad. And Fridley Sent. Good day, sir.
Hi. I don't have anything cool to say.
Amanda's inventing new trendy replies, apparently, so
Dude,
you gotta get on her level. Anyways, starting off today, we're going to get into some news stories before we get into our main attraction like we teased in the opening, which will be our take on X-Men Apocalypse, the next comic book film to hit the theaters in 2016. But let's start with some comic book news instead. And the first headline for today is about Captain Marvel, and I'm assuming that all three of you are more familiar with that character than myself. And the news coming out this last week is that Captain Marvel will probably be played, I like that, probably be played, that's I don't even know if that's worth talking about, but probably be played by Brie Larson. Dan, we'll let you react first. Obviously, Brie Larson made a lot of headlines last year with her Oscar performance for The Room. What do you think about her taking over the role of Captain Marvel when it hits the big screen?
I like it. Definitely, I can see the casting for sure. I mean, I have not read a great deal of Captain Marvel. I don't know, like nothing. I mean, I enjoy her as a character well enough, but nothing about her really stands out a huge deal. But I do like Brie Larson as an actress a lot, even from like seeing her in Short Term 12 was the first thing I really think I noticed her in. So, yeah, I mean, I think I could see her working in that role, and I know she's not done anything along those lines action-wise, but she's a solid enough actress that if she could probably pull it off. So.
Amanda, you've seen both Short Term 12 and The Room, so you've seen...
I've also seen her in a Showtime show, United States of Terror, when she was younger.
Okay, so what do you think of her putting on the tights for Captain Marvel?
I always mix up Captain Marvel and Shazam, I think. Oh. What's
I don't think you're convincing.
What's the little boy?
That's
Shazam
okay.
and Captain Marvel, they both are the same, yeah.
But
So it's like a little boy, and then he transforms into
But that's DC's Captain Marvel. This is Marvel's Captain Marvel.
She also went by Ms. Marvel for a while.
She was Ms. Marvel for like 40 years.
Yeah.
Then I have no clue.
So what do you think about Brie Larson being in a superhero film?
Cool.
Matt, you seem to know a little bit more about Captain Marvel than myself and Amanda. I don't know if you've seen much that Brie Larson has done, but what do you think about Captain Marvel coming to the big screen?
Yeah, I guess I'm like the exact opposite of Amanda because I've seen nothing that she's been in. I'm super excited about Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel, Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, whatever you want to call her. I've read a lot of the books that she's been in. I've read, I've got a handful of trades that are her-centric, as well as she helmed my favorite incarnation of the Avengers, the Mighty Avengers from like 2006, 2007 era. So I'm super excited about that. I did, like, again, because I've never seen this, I've seen the Brie Larson name cropping up in relation to Captain Marvel, and I was just assuming it was Brie Olsen because I've heard of her. And honestly, I think she's got more of the figure that Captain Marvel has, but probably not the acting chops to pull off a Marvel movie.
And so if you combined, if Amanda and Matt, if your powers were combined, you'd be able to give this a good take, because one of you knows everything about the actress and one of you knows everything about the character.
We need like some psychic wonder trend, like rings or something like that.
You need Professor X helping you out here.
But,
all right, so interested to see how that goes. I mean, obviously a lot of people have been clamoring for a comic book film led by a female star here.
So why is it Captain Marvel then? Like, what makes her a captain?
She can
So-
fly. No, sure.
Captain Marvel was originally a very original Captain Marvel was a member of the Kree Empire, and he was a captain in the Kree Empire, who led forces, and then yada yada, he goes to Earth and fights for Earth. That might be the second or third one. There's been a bunch of them. There's been like 6 Captain Marvels in the Marvel universe. And so she's just a legacy character, where she's like, maybe it's time to step up away from Ms. and take the captain. Although she's a full bird colonel, I believe, in the Air Force. So she's actually higher ranked than captain. In Earth stuff, but in the cosmic, she's the captain.
Marvel
So
likes
the answer-
captains. It's basically what it is.
Yeah,
Captain
that.
America's been so yeah.
I felt like the answer to all of these questions was comic book.
Comic books.
So, all right. So moving on to a different topic altogether. Let's go into the realm of video games. Since obviously we're doing a video game spotlight, we've already covered 3 video game films, and we've got another one coming up soon. So it seems like as soon as we started that, there was all kinds of more rumors about additional video game films. Matt, I'll let you go first with this one. The latest video game that is being rumored to be adapted to the big screen is a Tom Clancy film starring, or a Tom Clancy game starring Jake Gyllenhaal as the rumored actor to be portraying a main character in this film. Now, you're a little bit more familiar with the video game, I think, than I am. So what's your take on this video game being translated into the big screen?
I haven't played it, so I don't know for sure, but Tom Clancy games are all pretty much one note. I could be wrong, and it could actually be, this could be the PS4 exclusive MMO that I've heard about, but I don't think that's true. I don't know, it's gonna be like a bunch of like American guys, like shooting people in their generic FPS way. I can't imagine the story's gonna be too crazy, especially because it's coming out of Ubisoft's film thing, and Ubisoft as a company has been just dropping the ball a lot, like in the gaming world. So I can't imagine their film industry version's going to be so much better. But Jake Gyllenhaal's great as an actor, so fingers crossed if you're a fan of The Division.
I mean, he was in Jarhead, right? I mean, can't be too far off.
And End of Watch, and just trying to play a variation of that character. Dan, if Assassin's Creed and Warcraft and the rest of the video game films this year fail, will The Division be the first good video game film?
You mean Double Dragon wasn't good? And I just got... Yeah, I don't even want to... We'll talk about the other movie I was just watching recently. Oh, so much pain. I don't know. It's like Matt mentioned, I've played some. Like, I played Splinter Cell, which was a Tom Clancy game, which was... I could see that. I think that was also being making into a movie. I don't know if that's still happening. I know nothing about The Division overall. I also wonder if Tom Clancy knows anything, because I feel like his name's on so many things that he doesn't even realize anymore. It's like, sure, I'll do that. It's possible.
That has to do with some war people. We'll put Tom Clancy's name on it.
I mean, you have like the Jack Ryan series, which is Tom Clancy related, so maybe there's a story there. But I don't know. I'm hoping. Well, I'm hearing not great things about Warcraft, but I'm hoping Assassin's Creed gives us that. I mean, there's still hope there. I think I would probably put more faith in a Splinter movie than I would for the Division, but that's because I played that and not that other one, because I don't have a Xbox 18 or whatever they are on now.
I feel like The Division could be just a film that has nothing to do with that video game, and they could just get away with it. Like, it could just be like a war film or something of that nature, and they would have to do nothing else.
They're just gonna re-show Saving Private Ryan.
Well, I don't know if they'd go that route. But
They could.
Isn't it modern day though, right? Isn't?
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people are screaming at the computers because of how unknowledgeable we are, especially for being a geek podcast. I did a quick Google. The Division is what I was thinking I had not thought it was, where it's the persistent online RPG shooter. It's essentially like Destiny, only set in like a more modern day, but I think it's semi-post-apocalyptic. And I know that it's really easy to troll people because I think you have a physical presence in the world, and so you can block doors by just standing in them, and no one can go into that building, and you can ruin quests for people.
And by the way, we don't have to be bashful about not knowing about video games. It's a trend that's going around the network apparently. The guys took some heat for their top 50 video game in the first episode because apparently there was a lot of games they couldn't speak too much of. But the second half of that's coming out, and I've been assured that they know all about those games. So I would have been no help because I didn't know any of them either way. So. Moving on to the third article, let's go to Star Wars. Why not? A lot of people talking about...
I've seen Star Wars.
We've seen Star Wars, so maybe we can talk about this. A lot of news and a lot of time spent, articles written or tweets sent about the Star Wars Rogue One story that came out this last week, which was about the nervousness. Matt, you actually alerted us to it right away through Twitter about the reshooting of part of Rogue One, and there's been like 17 follow-up stories as to why they were doing that, and I don't know which one to believe. And at one point there was an article that was just like the powers that be saw Gareth Edwards' film and was like, good Lord, what did we do, and we need to redo this or help us or something. Then there was like other articles that were like, well, we just needed to add a brief cameo of a very important character, so we're just doing that. And now the latest article that I read, hopefully this is the true one, is simply stating that Gareth Edwards had a very, a somewhat grittier and darker tone to this film, which is kind of what I think a lot of us expected. But because of the fact that when they watched the film, they were realizing, hey, wait a second, the Rogue One film is supposedly going to end literally 10 minutes before A New Hope begins. And there was some fear that because they're butting right up against each other, that the feel of the one was not meshing enough with the feel of the other, so they wouldn't feel like as connected as a universe. So they were going to try to add a little bit more, and this seems to be a trend this year as well, lighten it up a little bit and add a little bit more possible humor maybe to the film to try to bring it to the same level as A New Hope. Matt, since you were the one that was right on this to begin with, what's your take on the whole thing, and which story do you think's right about why they're doing some reshoots?
Oh, I don't know, because like it's one of those things where it's over 6 months away. Like, who knows? I mean, movies go through reshoots. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're Suicide Squad, and like it's hard. It's hard to tell which ones are good or bad. The Force Awakens went through a bunch. Apparently, I didn't know about it until I found out about this. I hope if it is grim and gritty and dark, which is one of those things we've been complaining about a lot, is that that's too much. But one grim movie in a universe that's bright and colorful is very different from all grit, all grim. Like, you want the war movie to not be happy-go-lucky. So hopefully, if that's what they're doing, is scaling that back, the grimness, hopefully they don't mess that up. But, the trailer still has me hooked, and I still watch it at least once a week, so...
I mean, this whole film is basically based off of one line in the original films about basically, hey, everybody that tried to get this information died, or a lot of people died trying to get us this information. So I don't know how, bright and cheery we can hope for this to be. Dan, what do you think about the reshoots, and what do you think about the idea that this is going to end so close to when A New Hope begins?
I mean, I kind of could see that. I thought it was supposed to be like years beforehand. I guess that's, I don't know, maybe it covers a vast amount of time. I mean, I'm not too concerned about the reshoots as of yet. It's a thing that happens, it occurs. I feel like it probably happened in the original Star Wars. I know the first original Star Wars had notorious issues and problems and whatnot. And sometimes
one of the leads was on crack. So I mean,
there you go. Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. So
is
you
that
got.
Why she's fat now?
I don't know. I'm not going to comment on that.
Yeah, and then Mark Hamill gets in this car accident after that, so it's just, so there's a lot of problems there. So I guess I'm more concerned with I think there was a Disney executive that came out had pretty negative things to say regarding the test audience's reaction to it, which is unlike Disney because they're pretty tight-lipped with that stuff typically. So I don't know if it was just a rogue agent, I guess. You get it? Because rogue, yeah, sorry, I apologize. But I don't know. I feel like I've liked what I've seen. I don't think the story is going to really change my anticipation of the movie. I think this is one of those things. It's just the culture we live in now, where something of this nature maybe gets a little bit bigger of a story than it really, really is.
Yeah, a little blown out of proportion at times. The internet likes to do that. Amanda, any worries about Rogue One, or are you still on board?
Yeah, I'm still on board. I'm just sick of hearing about all these crybabies that can't handle things being dark and gritty and want all these stupid reshoots put humor in there. Like, shut up. Just calm down. Get your panties out of the bunch that they're in and just let us have the movie.
Unless your name is Zack Snyder, then listen to some of the crybabies. Anyways, we don't necessarily need to talk about the next news story too much because we've already talked about it in previous months, but it is, I guess, at this point actually confirmed that we will have a Mary Poppins film. It will be called Mary Poppins Returns, and it will in fact star Emily Blunt as Mary Poppins, apparently, or at least somebody important in the film. Unless I don't know if she's going to actually play Mary Poppins, or if Mary Poppins is going to be like an older person since she's returning, or how that works. But I guess timelines and age sometimes don't matter in movies. So Mary Poppins Returns. Dan?
Bitch flies on an umbrella. Do you think she ages?
I guess not, maybe.
I just like it sounds like a horror film, like Mary Poppins Returns for revenge. Spoonful of sugar makes everything go down. Like justice.
That would be so much more intriguing if that was the direction we were going.
I love Emily Blunt, so I think she's a good casting choice. And to be fair, Disney, when it comes to these live action, well, I guess Mary Poppins was always live action, but them retelling some of their classic tales, so Jurassic Park and Cinderella, they've been doing a pretty good job with it. So that does have me hopeful that this will be good too.
And Emily Blunt has sung in some films before, so she seems to be a good fit for that role. Matt, you don't watch Disney films, so I'm guessing that you've never seen the original Mary Poppins.
Dang. I have actually seen the original one that said when I was like 8, so I don't remember it.
So Mary Poppins DVDs are going to spike in sales here in the next year as people try to watch it for the first time in 30 years. Amanda, why are you giving me that look?
I'm just looking at you.
Okay, that's good. Let's go to some comic book announcements and castings before we finish up with some Netflix news. Thor Ragnarok has been making a lot of headlines. There's been a lot of articles about the tone, the atmosphere, the tone and the feel of that film. A lot of people saying it's going to be almost like a buddy cop type thing, or like a buddy space travel film. Some other articles that are stating from major Marvel people that this is going to be a very important film in the universe, and it's going to be a game changer almost to the point as Captain America Winter Soldier was, that there's a lot of important things that will happen in this film that will shape the universe going forward. And then, of course, we have the confirmation that Jeff Goldblum will be playing Grandmaster in the film, and Karl Urban will be playing Executioner. I don't even know who those two people are, Dan or Matt, so can either of you help me out with what those characters
Jeff
are?
Goldblum?
Jeff Goldblum is in Thor Ragnarok, yes.
And you said you don't know who those people are?
I don't know who Grandmaster and Executioner are. I do know who Karl Urban and Jeff Goldblum are.
The Jeff Goldblum casting has me a little nervous.
Why?
I don't see how he would fit into a Thor movie.
You don't see how he would fit into like this other universe because he's so like...
He's just so him. I think he needs to stick to like dinosaurs and aliens that are coming to Earth instead of going in this other plane of existence with these Viking people.
Most people are excited that Jeff Goldblum's involved.
Why?
He was in The Fly. He played like a creepy-looking fly guy. I mean, I don't really know. The Grand Master I'm not aware of. The Executioner is pretty much exactly what you would picture if you think of the Executioner. He's not really all that, if I'm thinking who I'm thinking of. I mean, I like both those actors. I kind of do agree with Amanda, though. Jeff Goldblum is very much Jeff Goldblum all the time. So him having a conversation with Thor, that's something I'm looking for.
It's like putting Kramer in like a space movie or something like that.
As space as he would be on Earth, him in a space movie doesn't fit.
Matt, do you agree or disagree?
I disagree with everything. No, I actually... when I read Jeff Goldblum, I was like, oh, he's just going to be like an older Tony Stark. Like, because that's what I think of when I think of Jeff Goldblum. But I don't know the Executioner. I know the Grandmaster a little bit. He doesn't show up that much. But in my mind, he's just this blue dude with white hair who's always playing chess. and it's always cosmic chess for the fate of all humanity or something like that. I think he and Corona play chess against each other in the Marvel DC crossover from the late 90s. So he's of that level, if you know Corona. Yeah. I think the idea of a buddy cop movie where Jeff Goldblum plays a grandmaster who's trying to cosmically control the whole universe sounds like a movie I'd see.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited for the movie just in general because I want to see what exactly they go with, what direction they go with it, and especially if they're saying that it's important to kind of the overall Marvel universe. Interested to see what they do there. And hey, I'll sign up to see what Jeff Goldblum's going to do in this world, even though I'm somewhat in agreement with Amanda and Dan that it seems odd to picture him in that type of universe. But from what you're describing, Matt, I could picture him being this guy that's just like this crazy guy playing chess and doing that type of thing. I could see that. So, well,
giving us his chaos theory. Like,
exactly, chaos
some
theory.
water down your hand.
Moving on to the Netflix announcement. Apparently, Netflix has signed an exclusive deal, and it's with a whole bunch of different things, but mainly all under the same umbrella, I guess. And that would be the Disney/Marvel/Lucasfilm/Pixar universe. And I don't know what that all will translate to, but they will apparently be having a lot more of those types of films from those studios that are going to be available on Netflix. I don't know what it will mean for Netflix, like original programming or some of the things that they can do for that. But Matt, I don't know if you have any more information on the Netflix exclusive or what it might mean for the future as far as what we might see from them.
Jurassic Park's going to be on there. On Netflix now.
It currently is streaming.
Well, yeah, clearly the article says we'll get more movies streaming. Hopefully we get some more like live action things. I've heard nothing but good things about Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and who here wouldn't want that once proposed Star Wars live action TV show, Scoundrels or whatever they were talking about, doing like an HBO level show where it's like, like Lando Calrissian, Han Solo, Boba Fett type characters.
Right.
Like, I would love to see that, but we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, just expect to see Disney movies on Netflix, and if you don't have Netflix, you're messing up.
So that means, Matt, that you'll have even more opportunities to catch up on some Disney films.
Yeah, because I don't have them all in my basement right now.
You have no excuses, sir.
None.
And Dan, obviously, this is part of the bigger movement here with a lot of these streaming services bringing original content, whether it be in TV series or films. We have a number of different films that we talked about in either our box office predictions or more, I think so, in our most anticipated films, that I think there's about 3 or 4 of them that are coming to Netflix this year instead of straight to the theater. So, I mean, we had like one last year with Beasts of No Nation, one major one. Seems like we're going to have 3 or 4 or 5 of them this year. What do you think of that trend, and are you looking forward to being able to stream some of these films straight from Netflix?
Well, from what I tell, it seems like all this deal is doing is that instead of like say like the war going, because currently right now there's a deal with Stars. Like Stars gets all the Marvel movies, and once they come to TV, they go to Stars, and you can stream them there. That this deal is just going to basically mean it's not going to Stars, it's going to Netflix. So they'll get you'll be able to watch them on there. I mean, if it means more, if they do go down the rabbit hole of creating more live action content, whether it be movies or TV, I'd definitely be for it. I think because there's maybe some characters that couldn't do a live action feature film, but would work well in maybe like a made for TV or made for Netflix movie, or I mean, a Star Wars series would be great. I think there's a lot of potential there, even animated or live action. So, I mean, even more, even Marvel doing some good live action or animated shows, because they had some good ones, but they canceled all the good ones for really garbage ones. So I think there's some potential. I'm wondering if they're starting with the idea of just showing movies on there, and seeing how well those do, and because Netflix is very about the analytical evidence and using it to shape what movies and TV shows they end up making. So maybe it's just a beginning of a bigger plan for them and Marvel.
What do you think, Amanda, as far as what Netflix is doing, and are you looking forward to more deals like this, if this is the tip of the iceberg like Dan's talking about possibly?
I don't know. I've always watched Disney movies on Netflix. There's not like a ton to choose from, but as far as new deals and some collaborations, I think it's a smart choice. I mean, those are two really huge powerhouses in the industry right now, and it just makes sense.
All right, that does it for the news for today. We're going to take a quick break, and after the break, we'll be back with our thoughts on X-Men Apocalypse. Stay tuned.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Hey guys, it's Optimus Solo and
Hard Candy Mandy.
And we just wanted to let you guys know about another podcast out there that we both think you would all enjoy.
It's one of both of our favorite shows to listen to, and it's none other than the True Bromance Podcast.
True Bromance is a movie podcast hosted by longtime friends Hyro and Barry, and if you like to smile, laugh, and just be genuinely entertained while listening to movie talk, then this is definitely the right show for you.
Each week, the guys break down a recently released movie, and not only do they tie in the movie that week to the beers that they are drinking during the show,
but they also tie it into a real fun top and bottom 5 list associated with that movie.
It's a blast hearing both sides of these lists, and it definitely makes them unique amongst all other movie review podcasts.
So we definitely want to recommend all of you guys to go check out their show. Just search out the True Bromance Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and all other podcast platforms. And if you listen via iTunes, do us a favor and leave them a 5-star review. And don't forget to let them know that the Cinema Geeks sent you.
On the Simplistic Reviews podcast, we talk movies. We talk TV. We talk.
Hello, Julie, what the heck are you doing?
Trying to make our spots sound more exciting by adding explosions.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could have got the point across with sound effects, not the real thing. Car.
Download the show on iTunes or at simplisticreviews.blogspot.com.
I'm sure your insurance company will cover that.
No, they won't.
No, they probably won't.
Thanks for sticking with us. As we said, the main attraction this week is our thoughts on X-Men Apocalypse. Obviously, Geekcast Radio Network as a site. People want to know what we have to say about the comic book films, and we've already had quite a few of them that we've talked about this year. We're going to have to see how this one stacks up against those later on. But first, let's just go around the horn here and get our initial reactions from X-Men Apocalypse. Starting with you, Amanda. What was your initial take on X-Men Apocalypse?
Oh, man. Well, I absolutely love mutants, love the X-Men, the whole franchise. I grew up watching the cartoon. It was like my favorite show. And I've loved these movies, even the bad ones.
Which ones would those be?
That's too short of a list.
But I was prepared not to love this one, actually, just because of the slight decline that we've seen, I think. And I went in skeptical, and I came out really satisfied. I do have a couple little nitpicks that I'm sure we'll go over, but overall, I super enjoyed it and had a great time with it.
What decline are you talking about?
I don't know, like, they kind of got a little shady there for a minute with the X-Men Origins and this whole Gambit thing that's been a whole run around. But I think as far as this new upsurge with this cast, the younger cast and stuff, it's
okay. I thought you were saying that we were on a decline with like First Class and Days of Future Past.
No, the whole little
the stuff before that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for clarification. That way you don't get in trouble. Dan, what was your initial take on X-Men Apocalypse, and how did you like it in comparison maybe to Days of Future Past and First Class?
I do think it would be a decline from those two. I love First Class. To me, it's one of the best Marvel films, and I like Days of Future Past a lot as well. For this, overall had a positive experience when it came to Apocalypse, though there were some issues I had with it. I think it suffers from a lot of the typical issues you see with sequels and prequels at the same time. It's a little bloated, and there's some problems here and there. I'm a huge X-Men fan. I love this franchise. I mean, similar to Amanda, I grew up with the cartoon and the comics. Apocalypse is one of my favorite villains, but even though he was decently comic accurate, I do think as a villain he let a lot to be desired. Though that's kind of we can probably get into further. But at the end of the day, like I would probably put this as in the middle when it comes to this franchise. It's nowhere near the bottom. It's nowhere near the problematic with X-Men 3 or Wolverine Origins, but I don't think it's to the level of the past of the franchise so far.
Matt, agree or disagree with where Dan's placing it in the franchise, and how did you initially react to X-Men Apocalypse?
Yeah, I don't think I could say anything too different from either of them. Like, I grew up with the X-Men. I don't think I like mutants nearly as much as they do. I think a lot of mutants have been very poorly written over the last couple of decades, maybe for forever. But at the same time, for, 2-3 years, the only book I picked up regularly was a mutant book. And so, it's good.
It's good. I think I had, obviously this is going to maybe not make for the best conversation here, because I think I'm somewhat in line with all of you guys as well. But I agree. I think it's a good film. I think I had a positive reaction to it, and it was entertaining. But like Dan, I'm not going to say it's anywhere near the worst of the franchise, and I don't think it's anywhere near the best. We'll have to kind of get into the details to see kind of why that is for each of us, and maybe we'll have some disagreement there. My first question would be, obviously it seems to be a trend, especially lately with these comic book films, to have larger and larger ensemble cast and a lot of characters involved. Obviously when we first started with even the Batman films, the Dark Knight films, and with the original couple Iron Mans and with the first Captain America, we only had a few characters to deal with. Now that we've gotten Avengers 2, Civil War, whatever you want to call Batman versus Superman, and this one, with all the X-Men films, I guess that's just kind of standard for X-Men films because there is a lot of mutants to deal with. How do you guys feel like the ensemble worked here, as far as what were the strengths and weaknesses dealing with this many characters? Did you feel like any characters were kind of tossed to the side a little bit or not given enough attention to? Did we spend too much time with any of them, and how did the development kind of go with that? I'll start with Matt on this one. So how do you feel like they handled the ensemble aspect of this cast?
At the time, I didn't even think about it, but there are some characters that definitely need more time. Like, I didn't get that Angel was really all that injured for, the majority of the movie, half of the movie. Mm-hmm. It was like one of those things where it's like he got hit, and then like he just kept fighting, and then he disappears for 40 minutes, and it shows up, and it's like, oh yeah, he's a wreck, he's been ruined. And it's like, oh, he did? In that fight? But it does have so many characters, and when you got to have 5 villains minimum, and then you also have to have this whole underground mutant situation, it is just bloated with characters, many of which don't get, like, why is Psylocke so super powerful? Like, she has a sword. Like, why was he instantly attracted to her? Because there's not enough time to develop her why she's interesting to him.
Right, and there also was not enough time to visit any mutants that you didn't pick.
Yeah, there was not a single time where he was like, "Oh, this one's no good, let's go," except for Angel, but it wasn't that.
Dan, you already made the bloated comment. Is that what you're referencing to? Is the characters and the amount of stuff, or are you talking more about like thematic things that they're trying to cover?
I think it's a combination of both. I think there are some characters here that they do some great things with, but especially the villains do seem underdeveloped. Psylocke is a good example of that. Kind of like pointless in a lot of ways. Like, even when it came to the motivations of why some of those characters would even join Apocalypse and like side with him, it seemed a little bit lacking. Some of the new additions for like the hero side, I think, do fare a little bit better. Like the Ty Sheridan as Cyclops, he does get his own new little intro with his origin, and I do think he has a little bit more development, and Jean Grey as well. Though even some of them, there's just a lot going on here. Some of the major stories, though, some of the returning characters, I feel, are left a lot. Like, I think Magneto has a lot to do in the first act, but by the third act, he's almost a forgotten character. And similar to, like, Beast and Mystique, they're there, and I just feel like they just... In a lot of ways, I just feel like there's not much more development for some of these characters. Like, I don't know what more you could do with Mystique. I feel like she hasn't changed much from last film to this film. She feels like a character that's going, like, just running on a treadmill development-wise. There's not much difference with her. And Magneto, I like his story, but again, it feels very similar to what he's done in the past. He has a tragic event involving his family. He loses morality, and he goes through that venture again. So I think some of the newer heroes do fare better, but there are a lot of problems overall with just, like, too many characters. I think less is more sometimes.
I'm glad you brought that up with Magneto, because I haven't heard that from many other people. But while watching the film, I could not stop the thought process of, I've seen this like at least 2 to 3 times now, where he has that, he goes down the dark path, and then Xavier has to convince him, or somebody has to convince him, and then all of a sudden at the right time he turns and helps him out, only to walk off into the distance by himself and encounter another tragic event, go crazy, get convinced to come back, etc. So I am a little worn out on that. And I agree, it seems like a lot of the characters get forgotten for good chunks of the film, which I don't know how else you do that when you're tackling this many characters. I don't even know if I could count the number of lines that Psylocke and Angel have. I don't even know if I'd need more than one hand to count their lines, because I can't remember hardly anything that they say. And it does seem like outside of Magneto, the motivations, especially for Psylocke and Storm, are not that great for joining Apocalypse. Like, I can see maybe a little bit on Angel's side, and I can see obviously a lot on Magneto's side for where they're going, but the other two seem very very convenient with how quickly they decide, yeah, this guy seems like a legit person that I want to follow. He's not crazy at all. And I think, though, what you mentioned is, with a couple of those younger characters, that seems to be where the film's strength is. Looking at an aspect of these characters that we haven't seen, at least in the film universe, with Sansa Stark, because I can't call her anything else apparently, and Cyclops, and even Cody Smith-McPhee, all those guys, that seems to be where the most interesting character development happens, because it's younger versions of these characters. We haven't seen that aspect of them, and you get to see a little bit of how they develop and what makes them tick in a little bit. You do get great character development with Magneto, like you said, for about the first half of the film, and then, again, he seems to disappear for a while, just like Matt was talking about, where Angel disappears for 30 minutes or something like that. So it did seem like it wasn't the best juggling routine that we did with all these characters. Not saying that necessarily ruined the film or anything, but I couldn't help but notice that. Amanda, I know you were very positive about the film. Did you feel like there were some characters, though, that did get a little bit left behind?
Definitely. I think that was one of the biggest downfalls, is just not, as far as my opinion goes, I wanted a little bit more than what we got. And I understand there's a ton of characters. You don't have a ton of time to develop every arc that you're going to come across, especially in just this one movie, or maybe even the 2-3 movies that we've had a couple of these characters in, just because of the back and forth and the weird timeline. Like, some things happened and some things didn't. I don't know. I'm still confused on that. But as far as, like, the 4 horsemen or whatever, or the 3, how many?
4 horsemen.
4 horsemen. I really didn't see them as super powerful mutants that did anything, really, even after they got, imbued with these more potent powers or whatever.
They just got new costumes, that's all they got.
Basically, yeah. And I liked Angel's wings as the original wings. I know they got beat up or whatever, but
he couldn't shoot those out and stab people.
But he didn't even stab anybody with them. Like,
they're like, look at all these awesome blade wing things, feathers, and then they never
stab anybody with them. I liked Storm's backstory. I liked Scott's backstory. I thought it was a cool introduction of a young Nightcrawler. He looked pretty dope, and it had some pretty cool scenes as far as, like, showing of his powers and stuff. Jubilee, again, we saw her, and nothing with her powers. I know they're weak, whatever, but I still wanted to see them, and it didn't happen. I think there was a couple times where I just wanted to see a little bit more, like, showing of abilities and stuff, besides, like, Magneto just going, oh, hey, I can bend more metal or whatever. And then, like, Quicksilver, we don't need any words for him. He's just awesome and amazing, and I love all his slow-down scenes and stuff. I wanted a little bit more of interaction between him and Magneto. And without going into spoilers, that's really all I'll say right now, but I was a little sad that there wasn't more development there. And I don't even think they interacted at all. And then I think as far as, like, dealing with all the characters, I didn't ever feel confused as, what was going on with each character. Like, I knew what was going on with each character, even if it wasn't enough sometimes. So that was okay for me. It didn't take me away from the film too much. But also the little bit that we get one of the main characters back for a little bit there. I thought that was pretty legit, and I was pleased to see that as well.
We'll get into that in a little bit later. With Quicksilver, I think I will give him a pass on not interacting too much more with Magneto, because I think that leaves at least some. You got to leave some things to be done in future films.
But don't bring it up to me and be like, yeah, no, we'll talk, but it'll be next movie in 3 years.
My only problem was he's in a situation where, like, literally they're trying to destroy the world. I don't know if there's a better time to be like, okay, I got to get over whatever I'm getting over and say something to this guy to try to stop it, more than just I'm in it for my family. Like, at that point, I don't know if I'm pulling any punches. I'm probably just leveling with Magneto and trying to get him to stop what he's doing. A little bit more forthcoming with that. Going into you mentioned his slowdown scene. I wanted to talk about that a little bit, and I don't think that's necessarily a spoiler or anything. I mean, we saw him have a slowdown scene in the other movie. I think we could anticipate that he's going to have some type of way to show his powers and effects here. I want to get your guys' take, because I've heard a lot of people that love that scene and a lot of people that hated that scene. I do like the slowdown effect, but my problem is, for as fast as he is, that slowdown scene was very long, and I don't know if it was as effective as what we got in Days of Future Past. Dan, were you a fan of Quicksilver's scene or not?
Yeah, I think so. I think it mostly because it comes at a pretty good time when, like, you needed a good dose of levity. I could see it running a little bit long, but it's that, the classic sequel syndrome of having to do it bigger and better. Though I thought it was, to me, one of the bigger highlights still, but I thought it just had some good imagination. It kind of took what they did last time and did little tweaks here and there. I still think the one in Days of Future Past was probably better, mostly because it was more unexpected and something that we weren't, something that was brand new. So it's hard to try to repeat that success, but I thought they got as close as possible.
I ate that shit up. I loved it. It was awesome.
Matt, what about you with Quicksilver, that scene, or with his interaction with Magneto?
I thought the scene was fine. I didn't think it went on too long, although thinking on the things that they didn't do, maybe it did go on too long in the grander scheme of things. But while watching it, I didn't get bored or tired of it. Sometimes it would raise a question like, is that guy really going to survive that fall that he got thrown out of? But, I mean, it's a superhero movie, so I can't really dwell on that. I don't know, I liked that moment, like the moments with Quicksilver and Magneto, if only because it was like character development rather than just everyone just being like, I'm doing this, and then they do it, and I'm doing this, and then they do it. Like, at least this showed a character who had to think about his actions, and do I do this, do I don't it, like, and what effects will that have on me versus the world, like. So it might not have been the happiest of everything, but it at least was a believable and interesting take.
Another thing I wanted to get your guys' feedback on, Dan, with the theater scene coming out of Star Wars and the trilogy, or the third film, and is that a needed moment of levity, or is that just have no place in the film and kind of just shoehorned in there to make a joke?
Actually, you know what's interesting? Cause when they went out and they went out to the mall and to the theater, I thought that is, for some reason, because I've watched the trailer and I know of the clip of them escaping, and I thought that was going to be leading into that. That'd be the moment that they get captured. So I don't know. It was fine. I guess it seemed a little bit unnecessary. Is the word that kind of came to mind, and I was like, are they trying to? Is that a dig at X3, or is it self-deprecating? They're saying this is the third one in the franchise, so it's not as good. I'm not sure, but I think overall it was more of an issue because of the overuse of a lot of the 80s-ness in a sense, where they just had every major pop culture reference just kind of in your face, from that to Knight Rider to Pac-Man, and mostly with the clothing that. And then the fact that walking out of Return of the Jedi, it was a little bit on the nose, but it wasn't a big deal to me. It was just well, that happened, and then that's about it.
Then the next film, I'm going to have to have a notebook to try to jot down all the 90s references that we get and to see which one has more of their decade references. My only issue with that, I did kind of feel the same thing, that it might not be necessary or a necessary scene, but I was also wondering if they were talking about their own movie, if they were talking about X3, or my initial reaction was, wait a second, are they saying that the third Star Wars film is somehow the worst one? I'm not following that. But Matt?
Well, yeah, my very first thought was, wait, are they shitting on Return of the Jedi? Which you don't do. Like, I don't care if you hate the Ewoks. It was a good movie. And then I assumed it was self-deprecating. I didn't even think about X3 and how terrible that movie was. Which even if it is like trying to be a jab at the other movie that you made, maybe don't point out the movie in your franchise that is the worst one, or not even the worst one, but a bad one in one that's trying to be a good one.
Right.
Sort of like why Gungans aren't parading around in Force Awakens is because it's like, well, maybe we move on and learn from our mistakes. And then the joke might have been good if I hadn't seen Muppets Most Wanted like 2 years ago, where they made the exact same joke and it made sense because they're fucking Muppets.
Well, that's a different type of Muppets. Usually my Muppets are not fucking. But,
oh, they always have a giant hole at the bottom.
That's why that TV series this year got canceled so fast. But getting into another thing that seems to be a point of contention for a lot of people when they're trying to find a negative about the film, let's talk a little bit about the villain here, Apocalypse, as played by Oscar Isaac. First, just what's your initial take on the character of Apocalypse? And then I have a follow-up question. Let's start with you, Amanda. What did you think about the look and the Oscar Isaac's performance and just kind of his role in the film?
I think that I was definitely excited to see him in a villain role, especially after seeing him in, like, Mojave, and I think he was in Drive as kind of not a great guy. I think that he does have the ability to be really, like, menacing and scary, and the look of him, I was a little distracted by, just because, like, you would, like, open his mouth and I could see, like, what was his lip and what was, like, the prosthetic face stuff, and it was just a little jarring, but I didn't let it take away from me enjoying his character. And I like what they did with his voice sometimes. It was really cool sounding and, you know, made him seem as powerful as he was supposed to be. And I think that his mentality and, like, just kind of how he went about things was kind of cool, but I wouldn't say he was my favorite villain of all time or anything.
Dan, you said previously that you are a big fan of Apocalypse in whether it's a cartoon series or comic book, just as a general villain. Were you pleased with how he was portrayed here, or were you disappointed?
It's a little honestly, like, I thought Oscar Isaac did his best that probably could have in this. It's challenging because the character of Apocalypse, I think he works probably better on the page than he does on the screen. I mean, he very much is by all means, a kind of a one-note villain, or a villain that's very basic in what he's survival of the fittest. He's, let destroy the world, like with Age of Apocalypse, infamous, like, X-Men storyline. He's basically ruling like a decayed world, like a dystopian future almost in a way, but he's okay with it because the strong are surviving, and that's very much who he is. And this kid in the movie does get that essence of him. The look of him, I actually kind of liked the look. I thought it got close enough to the comics, and it wasn't exactly there. I like what they did with the voice and key moments, but as a movie villain, it wasn't all that exciting. There's not that much depth there. It's hard, though, I think, when you get a team like this with the X-Men trying to create the big bad, the one that's going to be able to kind of be so powerful that he can overcome that of the X-Men and be a threat to them. It's hard to have that at the same time of having a character that is multidimensional, and so that's a challenge for sure. And I think mostly the bigger issue to me was just the inconsistency in his powers and how ill-defined they were, and how it almost seems like he was so overly powerful. Like, how did he ever not succeed? Like, if he can just basically make people fall into the earth with blinking his eye, how is there even a contest? So I think that was my biggest issue with him, is just the inconsistency to see a figure. And that's honestly very much the comic. Like, each story, his powers change. They're never really been well-defined. But in this, it was problematic because it was just hard to really see what the real threat is, what is it really trying to do. So I don't know. There was lots left to be desired for me with him.
Matt, agree or disagree with some of Dan's points there?
Yeah, I really agree with what could he do, what couldn't he do, and I think we all saw that initial picture where he looked like Ivan Ooze before, like, and that was very upsetting. And I have to admit, since I had seen that when I went into it, I had way low expectations, and it looked way better than that. Whatever filter or CG they applied to him in post made his costume look fine. It's not perfect to what I remember the 90s cartoon Apocalypse looking like, but I can get over that. But, like, yeah, the inconsistencies really bothered me. I feel like if they had given him 2 movies, like, made the first movie, like, have him be a background character, like, slowly gaining power and followers, and have that first movie just be the Magneto story of, oh, my wife got killed, and now I need to go on a murder spree. And then just make it a Magneto villain movie, and then have Apocalypse building up, and we're all like, why are we doing Apocalypse? And then the next movie do Apocalypse. And we've gotten the explanation, we've seen the strong mutants, he can maybe take some of Magneto's followers, and so we get to see them be good and strong, so we know why he wants the survival of the fittest of them. Like, they really could have done better.
Yeah, they tried to pull off a lot with one film there, and I agree that his powers are inconsistent. I also think it's a hard thing to pull off when you're trying to, like Dan said, you're trying to create this big bad that can go against this entire team of X-Men, because basically they're all united outside of this Four Horsemen grouping. And you're trying to create this big bad, but then simultaneously at like the moment that the most fighting is going on, you have your big bad lying on a table trying to transfer power from one guy to him. Like, I get that would have made him even that much more fierce, but it's like a weird thing to try to pull off when he's not involved at the height of the action. It seemed like that was the most crucial part. So I thought that was kind of weird. But the one thing I did like his look, and I've heard a lot of people question and say that his motivations were weak, or that they didn't buy necessarily his motivations for what he was doing. And I don't get that, because
they set it up right in the beginning in like the little narrative.
Well, yeah, that, and then also, like, number one, what Dan's saying, even not knowing much about Apocalypse, like, that's literally seems to be like what he's about, is destroying things and the whole survival of the fittest. But I think also, even if you just take this movie in like a vacuum and have no other knowledge, you basically have this guy who was a god-like figure in at this one point in time. He's betrayed, and conveniently this pyramid is able to be destroyed in one of the most ridiculous fashions ever concocted for a film. And sorry, that was
it was like a home, like a, what is that called? Home Alone type of, like, way in the
Rube Goldberg.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, that shouldn't be possible.
No, it totally fit in with anything in, like, the Indiana Jones aesthetic.
Right.
Yeah, true.
But my point is that, okay, he's like this godlike figure at that time, and he's betrayed and buried and, down there for, hundreds and hundreds of years. Obviously, when he comes to, and he's seeing this world that he was supposed to be part of the molding of this world, and he sees a world that he had nothing to do with, and is just atrocious to him. I don't see why you would need any more motivation if you have the power to just be like, wait a second, this is not how history was supposed to play out. I was supposed to be the ruler. I was supposed to create this world, so we need to start over, and I need to go back in time and basically try to create this again for myself. So I didn't need any other motivation than he wakes up and is like, oh, this is not how I had this play out, so let's hit the reset button. We're going to do this again. Like, that was enough for me, so I didn't have any problems with the motivations of Apocalypse. Matt or Amanda, did you have any problems with his motivations or why he was doing what he was doing?
Not him, no.
Yeah.
Somebody else?
Yeah.
Who else did you have a problem with the motivations?
Like,
just his horsemen or what?
Yeah, just his horsemen.
Okay.
Well, then into, like, I'm still not really sure how I feel about Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique. Like, my problem is I watched, like, the first X-Men movie on repeat almost. And so the first exposure that I get to Mystique in the movie form, I always keep comparing Jennifer Lawrence to that Mystique. And I like to try to see, what point in her life that she's at the moment, what she's going through, how she got to be at that point in her life. So sometimes her motivations are a little unclear for me, but as far as like Apocalypse goes, that was not an issue.
I'm afraid to say anything because I don't want to come across as someone who just likes to rip on Jennifer Lawrence, but
maybe it was the writing, but her performance in Days of Future Past and her performance here are night and day to me. Like, I don't know if it was just because she didn't have that much to chew on, but I thought that she was just kind of sleepwalking through this film. Maybe that's just me, but I liked her performance a lot better in the other two films. Any other performances that you thought were weak from an acting standpoint, Dan, or was it strong across the board or anything like that?
I thought the guy who played Nightcrawler, or McPhee, I can't think of his full name.
Cody Smith-McPhee.
I actually thought he did a pretty good job, and he had a lot of small little moments I liked, like his countdown of the 3, and I don't know. So I did enjoy him. I don't know if there are any other ones that are notable. I did like the guy who played Caliban. They changed that character a lot from the comics. In the comics, he's almost like, he has like the intelligence of Hulk in a way, but I kind of like the twist they put on him. It's a very small scene, but none of the other performances really stood out positively or negatively. I mean, McAvoy and Fassbender brought it like they normally do, but no, like I said, the new cast I think had moments for sure, but. Or the new young cast, I guess. Young cast of old stars.
Right. The other thing that I've heard people rip on is Xavier going bald.
I like that.
I don't understand. Do you not expect that to happen at some point? Like we're getting closer and closer to the original X-Men film. Like this is in the 80s. The original X-Men film is less than 20 years from that. So I mean, we have to get to a point where the two are somewhat melding together. So I don't understand why anyone would have a problem with the way he lost his hair.
I don't know. I mean, it's not like which is a thing that happened again. I didn't get to see him try to like go through male pattern baldness and try Rogaine and the entire subplot of him losing his hair if it happens in a freak accident.
That's fine. Okay, that makes sense.
I thought it was going to happen last movie, with somehow, but whatever. I mean, it had to get to that point in some instance.
Right.
I think some of the things that I couldn't get past either was, like, when they destroy all these, like, huge landmarks, and I'm like, no, because I know that it's still there. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, I can be like, they didn't rebuild Auschwitz. Like, I know that shit's still there. Like, that is fine. No, don't try to force feed me that.
But they showed it at the end that they are very easily capable of recreating everything as it was.
Oh, yeah, you can build a mansion hella easy.
Different timelines. Yeah. Screwed everything up. It's best not to think of the timeline and continuity when looking at movies because it just hurts.
Like, I was in Auschwitz in, like, 2008. I know that shit is still there.
Well, trust me, we had, like, a 40-minute conversation of timelines after we got home from this film.
And I still am confused.
Well, X-Men 3 doesn't exist. Basically, they didn't pay attention to pretty much anything in X-Men 3, except for they kind of did with Jean Grey, but whatever. And Wolverine Origins, they just completely didn't exist. And then they also forgot the fact that Mystique, or Stryker, at the end of Days of Future Past, eyes turn yellow, and he's really Mystique, but I guess that wasn't the case. He just had contacts or something. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of things continuity-wise that doesn't, like Angel, for example, is completely different than last time he showed up, and Alex, Havoc being Scott Summers' brother, I guess kind of works out. I don't know, but it's... Yeah.
Which I didn't feel anything when the stuff happened surrounding Havoc.
I think there's more there, because you don't see a body. Something tells me there's more there, especially considering where the movie ends up at the very, very end. I don't know. Something seems afoot to me, yes.
Interesting. All right, well, let's go real quick one more time around the table, give final thoughts and grades, and then we'll spend a couple seconds just doing a very brief spoiler talk so we can talk about one other character that, I mean, most people know he's there, but we'll get into a little bit more of his actual goings-ons in the film. So, Amanda, anything else that you didn't get to talk about? And then what would you give this one out of 10 for a score?
I think I just want to reiterate that I wanted to see a little bit more showcasing of some of the characters' abilities. Mm-hmm. I definitely wanted a little bit more of Jean Grey. I think I was just, really interested in that, in her character in general. But as far as the grade goes, I think I'm going to give it a 7.5.
All right. 7.5 for Amanda. Matt, anything else that you didn't get to talk about, and what score would you give X-Men Apocalypse?
Oh, I mean, I could talk at length, but it's not as bad as Batman v Superman. I gotta say that. I think this is the most likable Jean Grey has ever been between comics and movies and even TV shows. So yeah, more of her would be great. I had forgotten Oscar Isaac was even in this movie, and they had enough makeup on him that I didn't realize it until they did a close-up in the last, 20 minutes of the movie, and I was like, oh, hey, it's Poe Dameron. And if I were to give this a rating, I'm going to say 6. I'm going to say, I think I either on par or a little bit below Street Fighter.
Ouch. That's not a good comparison to make.
It doesn't fail as a movie. It's not the worst thing ever, but I think I would rather watch something that's campy that I'm going to smile at than this.
All right. I overall enjoyed the film. I think when I'm looking at like the comparisons to maybe some of the other comic book films this year, the one thing that stands out to me that I probably preferred in Captain America Civil War was I actually preferred the action sequences in Civil War over this one. Outside of a few like badass folding people into pretzels and throwing them against walls that happened like fairly early in the film, I wasn't blown away by any of the action in Apocalypse. So that was kind of like my biggest downfall for this film. But overall, I enjoyed it. I did like seeing the characters, but like Dan said, there's a lot of continuity things. There's a lot of characters that we don't get development on. So, I mean, there are a lot of things that you could point out, but I think overall I still had fun as far as like just a summer popcorn flick. I'd much rather watch this than any of the live-action Transformers or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles films so far. So I'll give it that. I'm just hoping for a little bit of some differences going forward. I'm hoping, as we move forward, we can get away from the whole Magneto Xavier thing over and over and over again and kind of move on to something else, as much as I love those characters and love the actors that are playing them. So I'm with Matt, though. I would give this one I'm going to go slightly higher. I'll give it like a 6.5 out of 10, I guess. So just barely above you, Matt, with 6.5. Dan, what about you?
Again, I still overall liked it because it has what I really adore about the X-Men films, and it's the relationship between a lot of these characters and the team dynamic, which I always found is probably the strongest out of all the different Marvel films or really comic book films in general. And I know you said go away from the Xavier-Magneto relationship. I actually think they should double down on it. I think this franchise is at its best when that's a primary part of it.
I guess not necessarily the relationship, but I don't need to see the same cycle, I guess, is my point.
Yeah, I think it would have made more sense if Magneto wasn't a horseman, but it was more of a team-up with him and Xavier, and they could have kind of gotten into that direction. But yeah, recycling the same him being bad and good, that is very much the comics when it comes to Magneto. He'll basically commit genocide, but then he'll be the leader of the X-Men in a few years. But overall, I did like it. I do think it's kind of missing some trademark moments or missing like something that really makes it stand out as like, okay, this is what I'm going to remember when I leave this movie. Like if I think of X-Men, if I think of the Nightcrawler sequence, if I think of First Class, there's actually a lot that I could take out of that. Days of Future Past, the Quicksilver, the first Quicksilver sequence. Like there's just, for this one, I can't really think of, okay, this is really where this movie is able to gain its identity. It's really not having that as much as I would like. But I'm optimistic of what the future holds for the franchise, considering some of the new casts that we have. So I'm actually going to go 6 out of 10. So I guess I'm right in line with Matt. I enjoyed it, but I think it is not to the level of what Singer has done previously, and I think hopefully with maybe simplifying things going forward, we can get a movie back on track for the next one.
All right, so those are our scores for X-Men Apocalypse. Real quick spoiler conversation, so if you don't want to hear any of that, skip ahead a couple minutes. But obviously we do need to talk about the other character that has a brief appearance, and that would be, of course, Wolverine. Just giving your guys' quick take on his appearance, if you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you thought it fit with what they were doing, if you thought it was not needed and shoehorned in, or how that all worked. Amanda, what did you think about Wolverine showing up?
Legit as fuck when they let him out of that little enclosure there or whatever. I thought that was a super cool touch that I didn't expect to see, and I liked the tie-in, and I liked the interaction that he had with, the new characters, even though it was, pretty brief as far as the exchange goes, but I really enjoyed that. I liked it. As far as more spoilers go, I think there were some pretty cool freaking deaths in here in the beginning, like folding that dude up in a pretzel, like you mentioned. Those were some really cool shows of power in the beginning of people we never even see again. I wish they would have had some more awesome displays of power like that in the characters we see, more so than what we got. I think that my oh shit, this is awesome moment in this movie was when Jean finally releases the Phoenix. That was always, like, my favorite part of her character, like, especially in, like, the cartoon. I'm like, just let that bitch out. Just let her out and let her cause some chaos here. I loved how, like, animalistic she was and very primal, and she just, wants what she wants, and doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, it's what she wants, and so that's what she's going to get, and she's going to do what she wants, and if you piss her off, then, you're fucked kind of thing. And I thought it was a really, really cool display of the releasing of the Phoenix, and it went in line with the cartoon where I actually, like, see the flame bird, the Phoenix, behind her, and I thought that was really awesome. Like, I literally got goosebumps in that scene.
All right. Matt, reaction to that, or like I said, the Wolverine appearance?
Wolverine appearance is one of those things where it's like, yeah, they made Wolverine look very Wolverine-y, do Wolverine-y things. He kills a bunch of people. That's, they did that right, and the having her connect with him is great if they're going to go the route of Wolverine and Jean Grey as a love interest. I don't know if they're going to do that since there's like a 40-year age difference between the actors in that movie. I think Apocalypse was rushed. I think this was rushed for Phoenix. I think this should have been a thing hinted at and then brought out even 1, 2, or 3 movies later. But it wasn't a terrible thing they did, and they still have room to play with it. They didn't, solve it immediately.
Well, it leaves room for them to now know that it's fully there and what it's capable of, and to have him, Professor X, actually have to trap it.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it depends on what they do with it. They could have done it way worse than they did.
Yeah. Dan, your thoughts on either of those issues?
Well, I thought the Wolverine cameo or scene was fine, but unnecessary. It was kind of it just seemed that it's like you could take that entire them going to Alkaline Lake and William Stryker showing up out of the movie and you changed nothing. So it's I don't know. It was just there. It wasn't. I get it. They need to show Wolverine. I guess maybe that will tie into something else. But it felt very much like I don't know. The thing that maybe comes to my mind would be when Falcon shows up in Ant-Man, though I think I like that more. And it's just okay, we're going to have a cameo. And I don't know, for some reason, even the scene itself didn't work a great deal for me.
I really liked what it did to Apocalypse, too. He got fucked up, and it looked super awesome when she released the Phoenix.
Oh, the Phoenix. Oh, okay, sorry.
Jumping stream.
That was fun. I do, that's always a challenge, again, when you get, more and more powerful characters, where do you go with it? And, do you have to, do they do Dark Phoenix next? And I guess the thing that has me interested is, I don't know, at the end, you see this Essex Courts, which very much leads into the character of Mr. Sinister, who has a lot of ties with Apocalypse, and with him getting the What's Blood, I'm assuming that means we're going to get some sort of cloning or maybe an X-23 showing up in the next movie, which I am kind of excited about because they're going to need to find a way to replace Jackman in some way. But other spoiler stuff, one of my favorite moments in the movie was the sequence where you had Xavier was being the telephone for the entire world, and at the very end he kind of turns it around and kind of disobeys that of Apocalypse. I like that moment, and the mental telepathy battle between Xavier and Apocalypse, how it references Apocalypse's ability to grow really big, which is very much a huge part of him in the comics. And that was something I've always wanted to see with the franchise, with the X-Men franchises, the Xavier being a telepath, you always would see him and using the astral plane to try to combat people, and I thought this is the closest they've come to that. I know with First Class they were going to have a sequence, but it didn't end up got cut because I guess it was very similar to something that happened in Inception, so they didn't want to kind of seem like they were copying. But I did like that sequence and like the overall how the finale all worked, where you had all these different pieces like coming together, fighting Apocalypse, and finally the Phoenix shows up and just goes crazy because that's how she be. But yeah, so I guess I don't know. I can't think of anything else spoiler-ish that I wanted to talk about.
I just want to say that as far as the Wolverine character goes, I mean, I'm fine with the scene. I'm fine without it. It didn't make a huge difference to me. I assume that there's going to be some connections going forward. I do have to call out, though, anybody out there that's complaining about Hugh Jackman being Wolverine in the last 3 films, or the fact that he's the older guy and all these other ones have been recast into younger versions, I don't think you've quite been paying attention to the timeline and how Wolverine actually went back as himself and those types of things. So, I mean, I don't think there was no option for them to recast him as a younger version of Wolverine. That would totally not fit in anything they're doing. Not that you should try to make sense of the timeline, but
I mean, to me, like Jackman looks better than he look at him in the first X-Men movie. He looks like just a normal dude. Now he's like freaking like Arnold Schwarzenegger, big and huge. So, yeah.
So yeah, I just don't think there was. I don't think wanting him to be cast as a younger version like we've gotten with Storm and Jean Grey and Cyclops and all that makes absolutely no sense if you follow Days of Future Past. So that just doesn't seem to be a good complaint to me. All right, so if you agree or disagree with our takes on X-Men Apocalypse, let us know. We were pretty much somewhat in unison for our scores. Amanda a tiny bit higher, and myself at 6.5, and Matt and Dan at 6. So if you agree or disagree, let us know, and let us know which things about our discussion that you did agree or disagree with specifically. Just doing a real quick bullet just to give people a quick take, because I know you saw a 2016 film, Dan, this week. I don't know if you saw more than one, but we'll just do a real quick shots here. You saw Midnight Special. What did you think of it in a nutshell?
Midnight Special. Yes, I did see Midnight Special, and I was very much anticipating it. I love Jeff Nichols' Mud and Take Shelter, and so I was highly anticipating it, and seeing him try to deal with sci-fi, almost like on human powers. I was rather disappointed with it. There's a lot about it. There's elements of it that I think are brilliant. There are some sequences that are really well made, but it's a movie that, for me, like its mystery in a way got in the way of me really enjoying it. Like I felt the characters were underdeveloped. The story itself was lacking, and at the end of it, when I was supposed to be wowed, and when there was supposed to be this like amazing moment, it did not work for me, and I felt very underwhelmed. And I think there's potential here. I like what it says metaphorically, but as a movie as a whole, there wasn't there enough. Like I need to have a character that I care about or understand, and I get it on the most basic premise, but overall, I just thought it just left a lot to be desired on almost every level. So I still think it's worth watching, and I could see a lot of people loving it, but for me it was unfortunately probably my most disappointing movie of the year so far. So
all right, so a disappointing film for Dan with Midnight Special. Amanda, disappointment or not with Alice Through the Looking Glass, which is one of your most anticipated films of the year. How did it work out or not work out for you?
Oh shit, it did not work out for me. Yeah, I could probably shit all over this movie. It felt like at the end of the last Alice movie there, I was excited and I had like a desire to see a second one. I was like ready for it. But then this one hit and it just felt like they were like, oh hey, remember the first one? And we had that one character that Johnny Depp played and everybody fucking loved. Let's just make another movie and then make him the most important thing, but then not really do anything with anybody else and really not do much at all in the movie. And I was really let down. And I love the Hatter. I love Johnny Depp's Hatter. I mean, his look and everything was super awesome. The color, the costuming, all that stuff, really awesome. But you didn't see shit from Underland. You spent too much time traveling through time. I think Time himself was pretty cool. He was probably one of the best parts of the movie, as played by Sacha Baron Cohen. He was pretty legit, even all the fun little puns about time and things like that. But then it just, like, you show up in Underland, and all of the characters, even the Bandersnatch, is just there waiting for Alice. And just nothing happens with them at all, and it was really disappointing and just not worth it at all.
That film could have had 4 characters in it and achieved exactly what it achieved with, like, dozens. Like, there was probably at least 12 characters in there that served no purpose whatsoever.
And I haven't read all of the Looking Glass novels, so I mean, it's like a collection of them, right? I don't know how many there are, but I haven't read them, so I don't know, how this played along with that storyline or anything. But it just, as a movie, it didn't do it for me.
Most disappointing film of the year for you so far?
Man, I would say, yeah, because I've had quite a few that I wasn't expecting to like and liked, and then this was definitely the ones that I had high hopes for and got crushed.
Ouch, 2 of the most disappointing films for you guys, so that's depressing. I won't talk about anything that was being expected or anticipated in any way, shape, or form. My one quick shot will be, I will just mention that there is a 2016 film entitled Exposed, starring Keanu Reeves. And please, 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 even if you are doing laundry or cleaning or some other mundane task in the house, do not watch this film.
It's super reminiscent, like it's trying to be Pan's Labyrinth, but the back of the movie case sells it like a cop drama. Like, I thought I was getting in a cop drama, and it's not that really at all.
It is currently the worst film I've seen in 2016, so Exposed should not be seen by anybody. I just wanted to get that warning out there. I think that does it for what we've been watching this week, unless, Matt, you have anything that you wanted to bring up?
I watched movies, but they weren't 2016. Does that count?
Give us one movie that you watched, and recommend it or not.
I watched, I think it's Missed by a Dollar. It's, I believe, the 10th Lupin the Third TV special / movie. I'm gonna try to. Well, I've got 15 of them. I'm gonna try to watch all of them and try to figure out the best one to show you guys, so you get it better. Because you guys didn't get the right exposure. But that said, I would recommend it. It's a lot of fun.
Excellent. So better than Castle Cagliostro?
Yeah. As
far as the Lupin universe and being an example of that, not necessarily just a film.
No, both ways.
Both? Okay. All right. We've got to go through some Blu-ray releases for next weekend just because people need to know some of the stuff that's coming out, because there's a whole bunch of stuff that's coming out that may be of interest to people that listen to the Geekcast Radio Network, and this is how we'll kind of close the show here. But for new releases for Blu-ray, we have Hail Caesar, which is a 2016 film. We have 45 Years, which got a lot of buzz. We have Zootopia. Those were kind of the main ones from this last 6 months that came out. But there's a whole bunch of other random releases that are coming out. We have Ghostbusters 1 and 2 in the 4K ultra high definition whatever Blu-ray disc fantastical special edition version, I guess. There's an Apocalypse Now triple feature. I don't know what that consists of. I didn't do the research on that. There's Blu-rays of Game of Thrones for season 3 and 4, some type of special edition of that. Here's one that I think some people in the Geekcast Radio Network would be interested in. Star Trek The Next Generation Complete Series Blu-ray Set. It's retailing at around $200. So that's a lot of Star Trek, but that would be awesome to add to anybody's collection. Roots, the complete series. The Other Side of the Door, which I know, Amanda, you are interested in and watching. And apparently an extended edition of The Martian from last year, which I'm interested to see what exactly that consists of. And I didn't know that they were doing sequels to Jarhead, but apparently Jarhead 3 The Siege is out on Blu-ray this Tuesday. Outside of the Blu-ray releases, we have coming to theaters Me Before You, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows, and Pop Star Never Stop Never Stopping. And then the limited or video-on-demand releases, we have Urge, which is a Pierce Brosnan thriller. We have Approaching the Unknown, which is the Mark Strong science fiction film.
Honey Glue, which I just wanted to mention because it stars someone named Boo Boo Stewart. Time to Choose, which is a documentary on climate change narrated by Oscar Isaac. There's another documentary called Art Bastard. There's a martial arts film called The Final Master, and an Alec Baldwin science fiction film called Andron, which that just shouts Oscar nominee right there. So out of all the stuff coming out to theater, video on demand, or Blu-ray, Amanda, anything that you would be most interested in?
Definitely The Other Side of the Door. I'm checking that one out.
All right. Not Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, huh?
I want to get scared.
All right. Matt, anything that tickles your fancy on that list of stuff?
Actually, I kind of really want to see Hail Caesar. Amy and I were to go see it on Valentine's Day, but then she something happened. She had to go work all day, so we didn't do anything.
All right. So the early release from 2016 that had a lot of buzz early on. Dan, what about you?
Well, Turtles, of course. No, I don't hate myself. Actually, Popstar. I do like The Lonely Island, so I have heard good things, and I like the trailer, so it's probably the way I want to watch the most.
I am somewhat interested in Me Before You, even though a lot of people are saying it's just a silly romantic comedy, or a romantic drama. But I'd be interested in that. If I had all the money in the world, I'd buy Star Trek: The Next Generation complete series, but I don't. So I am. If I had to pick one, I guess I'd go with the extended edition of The Martian. I'm interested to see what else is there and what they added to that extended version. So
You better read that book first.
I need to read the book first. So, all right. As far as some feedback, real quick. Last week we did our list of shame, our top 10 films, and we put some polls on the website and asked you guys to help us figure out which film we should knock off of our list first. And we're going to do a quick update on the results of that so far to see what you guys have told us. So, Dan, start wherever you'd like, but what's leading the polls on each of our individual lists of shame?
Well, Kevin, I have yours up first, so I'll start with you. So, a lot of variety for you, but I think ultimately you actually had one kind of run away with it at 26%. The Iron Giant was the one people voted for the most. The one in second place, which was actually the Rocky franchise, with 18%. So right. Iron Giant was the clear winner for you.
Iron Giant's up next for me. What else you got?
So for Amanda's race is actually a lot closer. It came down to the wire for her, and it looks like, though, the movie that ended up winning was The Godfather, the franchise, with 22%, and The Breakfast Club came in second with 20%, so there was only actually a vote difference between those two. So
I literally, the other night we were going to watch a movie, and I picked out 5 movies for her to pick from.
All from my list of shame.
4 of them were from her list of shame, and 1 was not, and she picked the one that was not.
Shame.
Exactly. What else do we got, Dan?
All right, from Matt. So Matt's also very close with his, super close. Even there's 4 within striking distance of winning, but the movie that squeaked out and took it all was Fight Club with 19%. Second place was the Casino, Goodfellas, Godfather trifecta with 18%, and Tron and all the Disney films were very close with 15%. So a lot of films are right neck and neck with one another.
And Amanda, you just had a news article for Disney-related news. What was that you just showed me?
It said it's going to start streaming every Disney movie.
On Netflix.
Oh, hey!
Not that you don't have them all on your shelf anyways. What about you?
Do they have Fight Club?
I don't know if they have Fight Club streaming currently or not. I'll have to check into that.
I want to see the Fight Club Disney movie, though. That'd beat me.
What about your poll, Dan?
So for me, looking at mine, with 16% was Casino, ends up winning it. Coming in second was Wayne's World with 14%, and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and Gone with Wind were tied next with 12%. So.
Surprised at the number of votes Wayne's World got. I didn't think that would be up that high, but...
Shut your mouth.
I'm not saying it's not a good film. I'm just saying compared to some of the other ones on this list. But all right, so we'll have to report back as we start watching some of these List of Shame films. As for what's coming up, obviously we're going to be doing our June preview next week. A little bit, probably a few days into June as we get that going, but we'll give you what we're looking forward to in our predictions for June with our next episode, and then we should have time for another Miyazaki film after that to continue that spotlight as we inch closer to episode 100. Thanks as always for tuning into the Cinema Geeks this week. You can contact us and get in touch with us in a bunch of different ways. First of all, visit the website geekcastradio.com, find the Cinema Geeks post, and comment there. We always appreciate all the comments that you guys leave and like interacting with you there. You can also keep up to date with all things Geekcast Radio related by visiting the Facebook page. Just search Geekcast Radio Network and they give you updates on everything that the network puts out. You can interact with us individually or via the show on Twitter. The show handle is at Cinema Geekcast. Mine is at Optimus Solo. Amanda, your Twitter handle is?
Hard Candy Mandy, eyes, no eyes.
Dan, your Twitter?
I'm at Movie Revolt.
And Matt, what's yours?
I'm at Fridley Scent.
All right, so that is it for us. Interact with us on Twitter or in any of those other ways. And then, as always, be sure to check in next week for another chance to listen to the Cinema Geeks.